It's a pleasure to be with you tonight on behalf of Ralph Lauren and Wimbledon ahead of what is going to be an exciting few days in the heart of New York City. Now, I'm sure you know this, but Wimbledon is built on history, tradition, and legacy, which is why it works so well with Ralph Lauren, one of their longest standing partners. It's now been over 20 years that they've worked together as the official outfitters of the championships. So the values they share are the same. Something else they do so well is bring people together. And we're going to see that over the course of the next 4 days in Central Park as we give fans a taste of the magic. I don't know how many of you have been to Wimbledon, but you will experience the magic of Wimbledon. And the showpiece is going to be a grass court that has been, I can't wait to see this, that has been laid and tended to by ground staff who come over from Wimbledon. I have been told that the court is ready, and I'm very happy to say that the first people with the honor of walking out onto the court are here with me this evening. Starting with a young lady who reached number 5 in the world. She reached the Wimbledon final. That's a Grand Slam final in 2014. She is going to appear down the stairs very shortly. Genie Bouchard, please make your way down the stairs. Did not drop a set on her way to the championship match. Alongside Genie, please welcome former world number 4. Now, this gentleman won 10 tour titles. He also did something very special, and he won the Davis Cup for the USA. And now he's the very successful tournament director of the Miami Open. Please put your hands together for James Blake. So to our next very special guest, please welcome former world number 1. She is a Grand Slam champion. It's one of the hardest things in our sport to do and to achieve. She won 30 tour titles over the course of her career, and now she is a mum of 3. Please welcome Caroline Wozniacki. So the final member of your panel is another former world number 1. He has 8 Grand Slam singles titles, so the highest thing you can win in the sport. He was also the first man to win his 4 majors on 3 different surfaces than we have in the sport. Let's not forget his gold medal. I could go on, but let's bring him down. It's Andre Agassi. Right, here we go. So let me ask you, James, you've come from Central Park, you've seen the court. How nice was it and how surreal was it to see a grass court in the middle of Central Park?
It's pretty crazy. I mean, I'm a New Yorker. I was born here, and growing up in Connecticut, like the U.S. Open was so special, and you don't think of grass courts. I don't know, I think even before Andre's time when there was Forest Hills and it was grass at the U.S. Open, it kind of takes you back to those kind of memories as opposed to what we know now of the U.S. Open being kind of the hard courts, very a little bit more new than the way it was. So it kind of, to me, gave me a feeling of nostalgia.
And Genie, we were having a chat. I know this is an invitational friendly, but I asked if anybody had been doing a little bit of sneaky practice on the grass, and you don't think they have?
I don't think anyone has played on grass in a while. But I did hit a few times on hard court in the past couple weeks, and every time I posted about it, Caroline would respond to my story being like, "You're practicing so much, oh my gosh." So she needs to catch up in the practice.
I've been watching you practice, and I've been out there twice this week just to make sure that I am up to speed, but I'm also still planning on James taking 3/4 of the court. I've been watching you running, and he's in top shape.
I love that we have the planning and the tactics already taking place. Andre, when you were playing, what would go through your mind as the grass court season? It's such a small window in the year, but what emotions as it was approaching?
Oh, emotions. There's no place for emotions on a tennis court. You gotta get to business, and you didn't have much time to do that.
Not the emotions when you're on a grass court, but when that part of the season, because for you it was a bit of a slow burner. You once described playing on grass like playing on ice that was plastered with Vaseline.
Yeah, Bambi on ice. I mean, when I played it my first year in 1987, I was 17 years old, so I never even got to practice on it that year. It's kind of funny. I came over here week early, went over to London a week early, and it rained for 7 straight days. So I didn't play on grass in the United States, and then they didn't really have it, and I went over and had to play an indoor hard court. And the first time I actually played on grass, I lost in about an hour and 6 minutes. So I wasn't off to a good start. But there used to be 2 weeks between Paris and the grass courts in Wimbledon, right? And that's a quick adjustment. It kind of makes what Borg did so incredible, winning 6 Frenches and 6 finals, and 5 Wimbledons with another finals. I mean, the adjustment's really hard. You can play for 5 hours on clay, but then you go practice for 2 hours on grass and you're sore because this supporting muscles become primary muscles. And, it's just every surface asks something different of you, and being able to bring it here and the implications of now how they can grow this and deliver it to public spaces maybe throughout different parts of America would be just great for the game. And they did this court in 48 hours, literally, and it looks beautiful. I can't wait to, attempt to hit some balls on it.
Okay, you
Yeah.
haven't been practicing, right?
No practicing.
No, it's going to be amazing. But tell us, for the people here who maybe have been, they maybe haven't, what makes Wimbledon so unique? What makes it such a special tournament?
It already starts when you walk through the grounds, and obviously it's grass. Everyone wears white on the court, and you have the traditions, and it's very old school. But at the same time, you look at the flowers. There's not one flower out of place. Everything is just so perfect, and it's a little bit like the Masters in golf. Those are events, Wimbledon, the Masters. There's a couple more that, as a sports fan, you kind of have to experience once in your life, and Wimbledon's one of those. I mean, I grew up in Europe and watching Wimbledon all the time. It would be on TV from morning till evening. And I think mostly it's just all the traditions. To be able to move forward with the times, but still keep kind of the base traditions is so amazing. And also, even if you look at the courts, behind the courts, there's not many sponsorships that are plastered all over. It's very clean. It's very proper, and it's really cool that we can have those old school tennis traditions, but still, the roofs that have been put on the courts, the extra courts that have been put out on as well over the years. It's just really special, and also the fact that you get to play on grass. We were talking to Andre the other day, earlier today. I mean, when you're on Wimbledon center court and you bounce the ball, I mean, you can hear everything because everyone's so quiet, and you can hear a pin drop, and it's kind of terrifying in one way because you're playing on center court here, and I mean it is so loud you can't even hear yourself think. You look up on a night session, you can't see the top stands, but Wimbledon, everything just feels magnified because everything is so quiet, and you know that everyone is paying attention to how you breathe, how everything's kind of happening there, and it's a little terrifying, I'm not gonna lie.
So Genie, take us back to 2014 and that incredible run when you did not drop a set all the way through until that championship match.
Yeah, it was such a special moment for me. Wimbledon has always been my favorite tournament, and I just loved the tradition like Caroline was talking about. It just has so much history. It's like the one you want to win. And so, I don't know. I was just in the zone, in a bubble. It's kind of like I don't even know what happened, and it happened. And I think that's kind of a good way to be as an athlete, because if you realize what you're doing in the moment, you kind of get out of the moment and realize the consequences of winning and losing. And that kind of happened to me in the final a little bit, and I got killed. So, but it was an amazing couple weeks for me.
And Andre, did it make it more surprising? You talked about the start and not playing on that much grass, that the first of your 8 Grand Slam titles did come at Wimbledon?
Oh, it was very surprising. I think no one was more surprised than I was. I had lost 3 Grand Slam finals leading into that Wimbledon final, and the 3 Grand Slam finals I lost, I was favored in each one by a pretty heavy favorite. So, coming to Wimbledon, I had low expectations, and I kind of thrived on that. It felt pretty liberating to finally not be expected to finally win one, or I should have been the first American to win one, but Chang did, and Pete did, and Courier did, and it was this wolf pack of players that we had. So when I got to Wimbledon, it was like, who cares? I'm getting good at losing. And the next thing you know, like Jeannie said, it's like you find yourself in a potentially winning position. And I was up against somebody where I was truly the underdog. I'd never won a set off of them, and so Wimbledon also kind of taught me how to win in a sense, because I realized that you can't go out there to not lose. You have to go out there and go after it and take it. And so it kind of changed my mentality. It meant a lot because it was the first one, but it was a big relief also as well. And then, yeah, you never forget the first time you get over a finish line in an environment in tennis that asks something so unique of you. And Wimbledon asked something very, very unique of a tennis player. And being able to play through multiple generations and watching how the game has changed and being able to play against that on grass and how the grass has changed and how the court wears out now versus how it used to wear out. And, you know, so many nuances change that maybe people don't take, you know, a great deal of notice of, but the players can feel every blade of it. So it's quite a special place.
James, let me ask you, what was the best thing about being a professional tennis player on tour?
Oof. The best thing was getting to live your dream. I mean, I think we all started tennis as a game and something that was fun. I wanted to be like my parents. I joked they were too cheap to pay for a babysitter when they went to play tennis, so I picked it up too. And always loved it. And then to get out there and be able to do what you love and it be something that brings entertainment and joy to other people. For me, anytime I needed perspective, I was feeling sorry for myself after a loss or something, it gave you that perspective of like, okay, it's not the end of the world. I did just lose a tennis match, but I still had a much better day than a lot of people in this world. So I thought about that a lot and got to go to work in a t-shirt and shorts, got to, you know, have my family around me, have my friends around me, have my coach who was like a mentor to me. So just being in those kind of situations and, you know, one of the things I loved is, as much as just about anything in this world is getting better at something. And so you're doing a job that you love doing, but also you're feeling like you can get better at something every day. What can I do today to make me better? And I absolutely just loved that environment.
I know you said it's about appreciating it, but I don't know which one of you wants to pick up one of the downsides or a negative. Is it striving for perfection? You're chasing points, you're chasing rankings. Is it, a lot of people talk about loneliness on tour, which might seem crazy to people because they see entourages and people with you the whole time. But I know, Caroline, let me ask you, the amount of people I've spoken to, and you had your family around, your father, your coach, but they talk about loneliness on tour.
I think I was one of the lucky ones. I never felt lonely because my dad was my coach. He was always there with me and traveling with me. And so, you know, anytime I would feel sorry for myself after a tough loss, or I always had family, and that was important to me. And my mom traveled quite a bit too. We traveled so much, and me, since I was probably 10 years old with the national team, I was playing junior tournaments around Europe. We didn't have many players in Denmark that were playing on a really high level. So to get competition, had to go outside the country. And so we were traveling a lot from an early age and still keeping up with school. My parents were like, you have to finish high school after that. You can do whatever you want, but that's kind of the bare minimum. And yeah, as much as I love traveling, it's hard, right? Because you're never in one place for long enough to really, you know, build those close friendships around. And so I started having friends on tour when I was traveling as well. So not only did I have my family, but I also built some friendships that still to this day we're really close. And that started in the juniors and kind of moved through.
But Jeannie, it's tough, isn't it? I sometimes think people don't realize what the life is like. They think it's quite glamorous because you're in Miami, you're in India and Wales, and then you're in Paris and Madrid and Rome, but you're not really seeing much of it. You are just working, packing and going.
Yeah, of course. We go to amazing places, but we often don't get to really see them. I always joke. It's really a business trip, and we see the airport, the hotel, the tennis courts, and a couple restaurants if you're lucky. And usually when you lose, you want to leave the city and go to the next city, so you don't often hang around to do the sightseeing and stuff. I would force myself to do that in some of the better cities like Rome or something. I'd be like, okay, I have to go see something. But it's a very, tough kind of business mindset. And for me, the travel is just what's so difficult about it. Like, you're on a plane 2 times a week, traveling around the world, and it takes a lot of sacrifice. And, you know, people see us here all glammed up, but it's like, there's like hours and hours and hours that you don't see with all these athletes. And so it's just, you have to there's only so many hours in a day that everyone has, and you just have to sacrifice, you know, friendships, relationships, family, vacations, the amount of, you know, sleepovers I missed when I was a kid. And, you know, in hindsight, that's a small thing, but in the moment, you know, it's hard to do as a kid. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Andre, the best and the worst for you of tennis, life as a tennis player?
Oh, I'm a very complicated person. I don't know if you
Like,
want
how much
me-
time do you have?
No, I'm not. I won't. I'll just say I think tennis fundamentally just teaches you how to be a tortured perfectionist, really, right? Because you got to focus on being better than one person, and you never know who that person is, and you have to do everything in your controllables better than these imaginary opponents out there are doing, right? Whether it means practicing or training or resting, so you start to end up, always in your mind pushing yourself to make sure you're getting the most out of yourself, for the opportunity to go out there and measure it against somebody else in front of the world, right? So there's an intensity to it, I think, that can be accumulative and pressure and at times in my life felt very daunting, and at times made me want to quit, and at times I did quit, so I went to number one thinking it was going to mean something, and then you realize you still have to figure out a way to get better, and you still have to go do it again on Monday, and I felt 141 in the world, and you realize that's just as much of an illusion, because I actually kind of gave up on myself and recommitted, and I felt more comfortable being on a tennis court for my own reasons, having that ownership and getting better and climbing back up to the top again. I think that's probably the part that was the best for me, is, figuring out a way to take ownership of a life I didn't choose.
Let me ask you. James, let's start.
That was really heavy.
No, but I like there was
Did
a
you ask the
But it's
question?
true, you're
So blame-
complicated.
there was
I blame you.
yeah, but that answer got a round of applause. So
Tennis sucks. No,
I think people appreciate hearing it and hearing the honesty, because as Genie said, people don't see that. People see it's glamorous, and players come out and they play and they go, and they don't see that side to it. So I think it's really important that you do see that there's.
Well, I mean, you can't pass the ball. You can't run out of clock. You can't call timeout.
Yeah.
You're X amount of feet away from your opponent, yet you're so intimately connected, yet you're on your own little island, so there's, you end up talking to yourself. You never see sports where people talk to themselves as much as tennis players, right? Talking isn't the problem, answering is the problem, and we end up having Lincoln Douglas debates with ourselves, so it's, it can feel pretty lonely in real time.
Okay, I'm going to flip it. It's going to be a happy memory, because I want from each of you the match of your career. This might be super difficult, and it doesn't have to be an obvious one. It can be something just for you that meant more. It might be under 11. It might be getting to the very top of where you got to. So James, you are kicking things off.
I'll go with beating Roger at the Olympics.
That's a good one.
For me, it was, I mean, there might have been an under 11 match that meant a little more to me, but that one was special just because, for one thing, anytime you're playing with your country on your chest, it means something a little more. I feel like I genuinely never got nervous playing tennis because I felt like I was prepared until I had USA on my chest. The first time I played Davis Cup, I had a complete butterflies in my stomach, and it felt different because they say game USA, advantage USA, and you're playing for something much more than just yourself. So being a little more nervous, playing Roger, who at that time I felt like was the greatest of all time. I felt like he had my number. He did. I don't just feel that. He absolutely dominated me. And I felt like he was the one guy where when I was playing my best, I felt like I could beat anyone in the world. And he was the guy that said, no, you can't. And so to beat him in the Olympics, well, I know it meant a lot to him as well. And it meant so much to me playing in that environment. It was the one time I beat him was that time. So it was really special to me to win that. And then also the feeling of a team. You go back to in the Olympics, you're staying in basically like a dorm, and go back to the dorm and you've got like letters and notes from a bunch of other teams, from the rowing team, from the cycling team, saying congratulations. It felt like more than just, as we talked about, some of the isolation, some of the loneliness feeling of the tour. This felt like being part of a team, being part of that Olympic team.
I think that deserves a round of applause. He beat Roger Federer at the Olympics.
I don't know about that.
Come on. Right, Caroline, from your many, many, many matches, which one?
I mean, there's a lot that stand out in my mind, but if I have to pick one, I'll probably choose my Australian Open finals against Simona Halep. I beat her there and won my first Grand Slam title, my Grand Slam title there. I was one of those players who really rised up the rankings really quickly, and at 19 years old, I became number one in the world. 19, I just turned 20 maybe, yeah. Anyways, but for years, I was struggling to win my Grand Slam. I'd won so many tournaments, outside, beaten every player. I felt like I was the best player at the time. Obviously, Serena, when she was playing, she's the best player of all time. But when Serena had a couple of years where she wasn't playing consistently or she was hurt or whatever, I definitely felt like, other than Serena, I am the best player here. And so to not get through and win the finals that I had in the Grand Slams really were hurting. And then getting the question all the time, you're world number one, but you haven't won a slam, that was kind of annoying too. And so finally, it took 6 years from the last week I was number one to getting back to number one. It had been a 6-year stint, and that's the longest ever that someone has lost the number one ranking and then gotten it back. And so doing that after winning my first Grand Slam, getting back to number one and doing all that kind of in the same time was really special to me, especially because the first time I was number one, I think I took it for granted. You know, just like Andre said, I became number one. I won Beijing, a tournament kind of at the end of the year, and I knew that once I win this, I'm number one in the world. But at the end of the day, it was still the same thing. The next day, go move your feet. And, you know, you need to get lower. You need to do this. And it kind of, I think, was a little depressing at the time where I was like, wait, so you're telling me I had this childhood dream come true and nothing changed? The people that followed me before still follow me. The people that don't still have no clue who I am. And it's like, I realized quickly that nothing changed. I just had to keep grinding. And so I think I really appreciated it a lot more the second time around. And I really took it in, and I knew how hard it actually was to get back to that. And so, yeah, long story, but that was my favorite probably match.
I mean, everyone's going to have a round of applause, because these are special moments, and they mean different things for different reasons. Andre?
Yeah, well, there's 4 pillars of our sport, right? Australian, French, Wimbledon, and U.S. And getting over those finish lines are unique to each one, difficult for their own reasons. I would say my best moment on the tennis court came in 1999 at the French, because it was the last of the 4 that had eluded me, and I could have won it. I was favored twice a decade earlier, 2 years in a row, and I was 60 days removed from a divorce in my life. I had fallen to 141 and climbed all the way back to number 6, and I never thought I'd have a chance to win that tournament again. I should have lost 4 times that tournament, literally. First round was down 6-4, 4-1 to Scolari, who was probably top 7 in the world on clay. Second round, 2 points away from losing to Clement, a Frenchman, and he started to cramp, and I beat him 6-0 in the 5th. Was down 6-4, 4-1, 2 breaks to the defending champion in the round of 16. Then I was down 2 sets to love in the finals, scared to death that, you know, I was old enough to realize I'll never have another chance to win. This is my chance. And so I kind of had to fight my demons. It was like my entire life in a microcosm, and getting over the finish line there, I knew in real time that I would never have another regret as it related to inside the lines of tennis. So that would be mine.
And can I just ask you, just because you were talking about the French Open, you tell a wonderful story about Rafa Nadal in the locker room. You say it was the moment you knew you would never beat Nadal. Can you remember?
Yeah, a lot of generations I had the luxury of competing against, and competing against his generation, I didn't feel quite as lucky having to play against him. But yeah, I mean, I always prided myself on my work, you know, my work ethic, putting in the time, and I was usually the last person. I was the first one to get off the tennis court when it was time, but I would never cut short. So I was in the locker room late. Nobody else was in there, and I see this young kid come in, you know, and they had these lockers where you have to click you can't look at numbers. You have to count the clicks, and you get your combination, and he'd count the clicks, and then and I'm watching him like through cupboards, you know, I mean, through lockers, you know, he doesn't even know I'm there, and then he does it, and it doesn't open, and he just gets frustrated, starts again, doesn't open, and he bangs the locker, does it again, and then finally it opened, and he just goes, "Vamos!" And there was nobody else in the entire locker room, and he self-vamos. I mean, if you are that intense to be there later than me, and to be so pumped that you just figured out a way to open up that locker, I was convinced it was time for me to retire.
I think that is a brilliant story, and it kind of sums up Rafa Nadal. So, Genie, what for you stood out in your career?
Well, it's not fair going after Grand Slam champions because I never won a Grand Slam. But yeah, definitely a few memorable matches in my life. One that came to mind while these guys were talking was when I beat Venus Williams. I played her at, not a Grand Slam, but it was a tournament in Charleston. And it just felt so surreal to be on the court and see across the net someone I had seen on TV. Like, it really felt like I wasn't like living in reality and my feet did not feel like they were on the ground. And so to be able to get over that mentally, to be able to just keep it together and play tennis, and it was like a long 3-set match, and to just like overcome this feeling of like, wow, I'm playing a living legend. I'm playing someone I've seen on TV for 15 years. And she's so amazing and classy and graceful and unbelievable. And, by contrast, I played Serena as well. And I remember calling my mom right before the match. And I was like, I'm scared I'm going to lose 0-0. And I actually went out and won the first set, but then I lost the match. So I never beat Serena. But I did beat Venus, and that one was a special moment for me.
A round of applause for Genie, beating Venus. I do want to spend a couple of minutes, because we're in this beautiful setting, talking about style, talking about fashion. Caroline, I'm going to start with you. How important was it for you to feel stylish and fashionable on a tennis court? Or maybe you'll tell me it absolutely wasn't.
And I feel like, as a woman, I like to look classy. I like to look good. And on court, even when we're out there and fighting and sweating, and, it's great that you have an outfit that not only works, but also looks great on court. And so it was a good combo.
I think, James, the great thing about brands like Ralph Lauren is it allows fans to get closer to the players in terms of style, in terms of what they're wearing. How many times do you walk around a tournament and people are kind of kitted out in exactly the same thing as you were wearing? It's got to be about comfort as well, but where did you sit on the fashion style stakes?
You can have some sort of a say, and you're not playing a team sport where you're wearing the same uniform that everyone is. But you can see kids coming out, and I wore a headband for a long time. You can see a kid coming out wearing a headband. And it's pretty cool to know that, okay, this was my style on the court, and someone else is going to try to replicate it and be a part of it. And so I think seeing that and seeing how the style has changed throughout the years, coming from the days of Arthur Ashe and the short shorts and Stan Smiths and those kind of shoes to what it is now, and going through the Andre Agassi phase of the denim shorts and the fluorescent. The fact that it's changed so much and being a part of that was a lot of fun, and to show your own little piece of that was a great experience to know that you can show your individuality when you're out there.
Andre, how would you describe your sense of fashion on a tennis court through the years?
Please tell me we have pictures.
Let me first apologize to your parents, James, for me being any influence at all.
I had the denim shorts. I did.
In your formative years. Tennis was never my choice, but one thing I could choose was rebellion. And I took a great deal of pride in that for a long period of time. If I could put something on that offended somebody, that was a step in the right direction. And especially if I could offend an entire establishment, that also meant something a great deal personal to me and intimate. Anyhow, but what I definitely wanted to do at the same time was not make tennis so narrow in the tent of people that watch it, the people that care about it. I kind of felt there was a way to grow the sport through some of those communications, but I went through a lot of different phases of that expression, from, let's say, image to eventually more substance, and through that growth I became much more interested in comfort and performance. It was, for me, about not avoiding the bright colors, because I didn't want my opponent to quite see me as much in their periphery when they're about to hit a shot, and from the weight of the shoes to all the things that James just talked about. So for me, that was I saw fashion as a way to hopefully enhance the tent of people that want to watch the game. At the same time, kind of thumb my nose at the establishment, and then all the way to, losing my hair and cleaning up and, wearing something that is much more substance-based. So yeah, I didn't know what I was really doing while it was happening, but
But would you like the fact if you walked down the street and you saw a little kid with the denim shorts, the kind of neon undershorts, did you think, yeah, that's my style? Or do you think, oh, did I look
back
like that?
then, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'd be like, props to you, you know.
See?
Screw everybody else, wear that stuff. Yeah, but now when I see people talk about like, I used to have the spandex underneath, I'm like, oh God, I'm so sorry. You know?
You had to put the two together. They had to
No,
come together.
It's harder looking back, but yeah. But at the time, no, I felt like anybody I saw wearing something that I was wearing was probably a person that might not have ever cared about watching tennis before. So that was always in the back of my mind that maybe they've come to the game.
I think fashion genie, and possibly also your generation, is so important because it is a way of connecting with the fans as well.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It was and still is very important to me. I would always tell every sponsor I worked with, if I feel like I look good, I'm going to play good and I'm going to play better. So it's your interest as well to give me cute outfits. Like James said, we don't have to wear a uniform like other people. It's an individual sport. So we're not wearing jerseys with a number on our back. We are really just... we're our own brand. And so I think tennis, you can really go beyond tennis because of that. And fashion is one avenue to do that. And so I took that seriously. And when I felt like my outfit was cute, I played so much better. And so I still adhere to that today.
I'm going to have to let you guys all go soon because you have your invitational friendly to prepare for. But let me just ask you this. Whenever I speak to tennis players and I say, are you superstitious? They say, I'm not superstitious. We're all superstitious. You find me a tennis player that wasn't superstitious, and maybe I'll find one this evening. So, James, tell me, are you superstitious?
Yes, very.
What was the most extreme thing or strangest thing you did?
I did so many. I don't think any were like super strange, but had to get the balls from the same ball kid to start my service game. My electrolyte drink had to be a little bit behind my water bottle. I had to shower in the same shower after I win the first round. I had to eat the same breakfast after I win the first round. I didn't shave once the tournament started.
That's a lot.
What else? Yeah, I had so many. I don't think any were like any one individual were so crazy, but the fact that you add them all together, I start sounding a little crazier. But yeah, quite a few.
Wow. Caroline?
I'm not as crazy as this guy over here. But I like to get the ball from the ball kit of the side I was serving. So that was one. And then I like to be the first one on site from my team. So even if we're in the same car, I'm going on site first.
Okay, that one's crazy.
Yeah, but I just...
See, maybe
I'm
she is
like,
as crazy
I'm
as
well
me.
prepared. There's no reason why you should be
So
there
what would they
before
do?
me.
Stay in the car and then you'd go?
No, we can walk together, but I'm
Oh.
walking through the door first.
Oh, okay.
I'm walking through security first.
Crazy. Yeah, just saying.
I don't know, that kind of came later. And my dad is very superstitious. So if you asked him, he has like 300 different things I think he put that on me. He's like, one time I walked in first and I didn't even think about it. He's like, you lost a terrible match. Like, now you're the first one that walks in. And then that got in my head. And then for the rest of my career, I was always walking in first.
Oh, wow. So, okay, James thinks you're crazy and you thought James was crazy. So, Andre, I don't know where we're going to get to with you.
I think tennis is crazy. If you haven't figured that out yet, it can turn you into quite the overthinker. But there were a lot of things I did, but I didn't look at it as superstition. I looked at it as ritualistic, because I always wanted to remember the importance of focus and attention to detail, and so I wouldn't step on lines in between points, and I would get the balls from the ball kids in certain orders. I'd always get the same amount, and then I'd have to give it back to. And I want to make sure the balls are split evenly between the two ball kids in the back, and I would, geez, what else would I do that was that could be perceived as superstitious, but for me, it was about reminding myself the importance of the moment. If I play in Italian, I'm definitely having pasta the night before, just because I want to remind myself that, who's standing in my way. So I was
Saying I'm coming off a lot less crazy right now, right? A lot less crazy.
James, you're looking great now.
And if we really want to kind of go dark, the year I won the French Open, I get to the courts and I realized I had everything packed except my underwear. So my choice was to use my coach's underwear or none. So I'm not using my coach's, so I went with none, and I won the match I should have lost. So I had a real big decision to make the next.
Oh, no.
the next 2 weeks, and so I made the noble right decision. I went total commando for 2 weeks, and I won the tournament. And I swore I was never going to wear underwear again, but that actually became a debilitating.
Problematic?
It started to work against me. Let's put it that way.
Genie, I'm so sorry you have to keep following Andre.
I know, we got to make Andre the dessert because this is too good. I think I feel a little bit similarly, though. I think I did have superstitions, but in my mind, they weren't. It was just like normal routine. I would have breakfast, the same breakfast every morning during the tournament week. I think it's because like we have so much we cannot control out there that it gave us a semblance of control of like, okay, well, at least I know I can control what I eat or what I wear or how I do things. Another one is like putting my rackets in my bag, and like I would always the one to match when I wanted to start the match, I would take it from this exact side of the bag, and to me that's totally normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
These guys are crazy. This one is not. Just small things like that. I actually would joke, I'm like superstitious about not being superstitious. Like I really tried to not go down this road because you see some of the players. I mean, James, you talked about the bottle positioning. I mean, everyone knows about Rafa and his crazy bottle antics. And so I never wanted to like depend on that, because what if something happens and you can't control it? And then what? You're just going to lose that day no matter what. So I really tried not to be too crazy, but a couple small ones.
So I think what we've learned is tomorrow, Jeannie's going to take a racket from the same place. Andre might be commander when he plays tomorrow. Caroline is going to be the first one on site, and James will be sorting out the balls at the back of the court. We really appreciate your time. Thank you to Ralph Lauren. This is a beautiful setting. Huge thank you to Wimbledon for bringing a grass court to Central Park in New York. And again, one last massive round of applause for Genie Bouchard, Andre Agassi, Caroline Wozniacki, and James Blake.